Hello, everyone. Okay, it's working. Yes, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new talk and exploration of the human condition with Sarah. And as a graduate student, so this is a series of videos or recording that I would like to contribute to the public, facilitating knowledge and attribution to the common creative in disseminating information and contribution to the work that of my schooling and the experience of the human condition, personally and academically and cross-cultural. So I am bringing a diverse perspective on how we present health and how what we understand what health means, what is the human condition when we would like to. That's much better, I think. No, it's in here. Yeah, no, that's not much better. It's in here. I'm trying to figure out the which angle is much better when I present with this one or that one, but the more I move it, it's disappearing. So I think this is much better. So I'm trying to figure out things along the way. Like in 2016, I started to express. It was a realization, a direct connection between unprocessed emotions and the state of overwhelm. Back then, I didn't understand. Back then, like 10 years earlier, I didn't understand. But what I understood that because of my gender, because of my nature as a female, I am supposed to be this way, or I have to I have to live with it. So that wasn't a choice for me. That wasn't a choice. It was like the inner tuning within myself that is not life, will never be life. And but I don't understand how, when, what. And through the years, you just have this drop tiny of information that make you question, that make you persist to seek and understand. And it it took me um, in a journey that it is hard to explain. It is hard with its odds and ups and downs and confusion and overwhelm and going through stages, and there is no answer. There is no answer. However, that made me going back to school 2017, going back to school, and I'm determining to understand the human behavior from the perspective of central nervous system and the biosystems. Because we're not separate entity, we're not like meant to be like tossed back and forth, like because you deserve this or we want you this way. That is not God's will. That is not God's understanding about why He created us and what the challenges are we are facing, and we are like not only facing but sometimes surprised because of its ambiguity, its lack of not fully understood, and there is no specific answer to it. There is no specific answer to a condition. There is no specific why the perceived reality, the perceived stress, the perceived threat, all of this language is not being explained through schooling, from early age, from family setting, from community, from society. Human beings are majority are taking from the tribal, the group, find your herd and stick to it. And whatever happened, you have to deal with it. And if you don't find your herd, you start to seek the external validation, the external solution, or the way out, outside of yourself, outside of what originally God has created within you. And you here, when I come to know the subjective vulnerability, these are 20% of the population, and 60% of women, that is based on research and studies has done, are being taken advantage of due to either their sex, gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, social class, level of awareness. So because if it comes again, this is when you have the awareness, your purpose of life, your meaning of the day, what you wish to have in your day and accomplish, the sense of value, meaning, respect, all this. Sometimes our subjective vulnerability, and those are subjective to the perpetrator or the aggressor manipulation and tactical, like this is survival, came from the animal kingdom survival, that the survival of the fittest, that is the biological rule, that is the survival of the fittest. And like the desire to fit, belonging, approval, validation, all of this concept come to not to benefit the growth and the resiliency of adaptation and the healthy life. It came as a social norm or perspectives to be put to serve a specific agenda or to continue a certain function within certain groups and certain communities. So we haven't started cross culture. We haven't started. What we understand is the IQ, the quotient of your math and science. So that is the perspective how the human being are seen, what has been built within the structure of the society, that the higher Q they have a better status in the society, the lower IQ they have lower status in the society. So humans are designed to be boxed in a specific perspective. So women are only for like the biological or the satisfaction of the biological needs, um, ignoring other aspects what God has created within us, that we were created in His image, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. environment. They are not teaching that the human is created within the creation of God, and what that can resemble of his all creation of wonders that we scientists, experts, and everybody is trying to find like the hint of understanding to add to previous knowledge to understand a specific phenomena. And it takes a whole world to break down this phenomena. But what is the core component of any phenomena, whether socially, economically, environmentally, is the human nature, the human condition. That is the common denominator or the main function of the whatever searching, whatever exploration, whatever discovery is revolving around the human. However, within the hierarchy, within the structures that has been built from geopolitical, and like geographical, religious, it's all our frameworks are designed to structure specific communities a certain way, and whoever comes or look out outsider, they are not so not validated, not accepted, not fit, whatever it is, not belonging. And we started to have this survival mechanisms that it's innate within us to keep us alive. That is the limbic response and the conflict resolution or conflict, the presence of the conflict, whether it is internally, it is either externally, it's all looking for validation, belonging, survival. So they are from the lower bottom of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the physical, the safety and belonging. Okay, self-actualization. That is no. That is when everything, like when it comes later on, I understand that the state of acceptance, the state of awareness, the state of realization of who we are and what is the world and our connection with the world around us. And you are not in control of the whole world, you are in control of yourself and how you are acting. From what mechanism are you activating? Is it fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fiend, or it is from rest and digest? That is the calmness. And here comes in within a context. And another thing that doesn't is not being taught in any school, family, community, society, that is a context, which brings me later on into the culture intelligence. So culture intelligence, it is understanding all factors, biological, social, psychological, mental, emotional, within a complex environment. What did this is, so I am presented with a different scenario from what is familiar, from what is relevant, from what is from your heuristic memory, or like what is familiar, or what is understood. I'm dealing with ambiguity, I'm dealing with patterns, and my brain hasn't established the foundation for this pattern to understand and be aware of it, so I understand what is the next action or procedure I have to take properly, appropriately. And we hear all now is a culture appropriate programs, culture appropriate languages, culture appropriate communication, culture appropriate interventions. So that means I am dealing with culture intelligence, and I'm dealing with a higher level of metacognition, a higher level of metacognition. Normally, when you see that the individual is acting from the inmate and the primate, or the primary or the heuristic models, or understanding, you are going to see mostly the limbic response or autonomic nervous system that is filled with what has been already been taken from ancestors to parents and the environment, and that is the stress response, which impacts the immune response, and which it change over time the biosystem and its impact on the brain function and the structure. So it's not like something simple that we are like trying to put a stamp, or like this is what it is, and deal with it. Unfortunately, that is the case, and we would like to look further into the complex environments that we are dealing with, diverse populations across sections, interest, motives, attitudes, attributes, agendas, a change of the structure of the geopolitical mapping across nations, across societies. So you are not only a singular entity within like the old factor of the primitive life, the simple life, the hunter gatherers, that they are looking for shelter, they are looking shelter, food, water, and a place to live, and they are looking for their mammalian, that is a social human being, that is the connection, that is the whether it is intimacy or whatever it is, the relation, the interpersonal relationships. So that is all in meeting the basic needs of the survival of life, which is physical and safety and trust and belonging. People used to move from one place to place, that is looking for the lower hierarchy, the lower levels of Maslow hierarchy of needs. That is when we say the humanistic approach, humans, how they live as primate creatures, as the inmate, as the survivor instinct and built within us, as the fear response of scarcity. So they gather all their needs in a specific seasons. So they learned how to conserve, how to save, how to consume. So they have their own innate intuition of how to survive across time, or across certain circumstances that imposed on them. But they become adaptive, they create it, they change it, they understand that the survival of the fittest rule is being taking place, and for ages it has been taking place. Unfortunately, as well, some cultures are still acting from this, the survival of the fittest, and somebody has to pay the price for others to live, or somebody has to pay the price or sacrifice for others to flourish. It is not a win-win interaction, it's a will-lose interaction, which brought the human being into more the predisposition of their genetics. So we have this, the epigenetic phenomena is now it is the main, it's the main interest for the scientific world that the genotype phenotype interaction, or the gene environment interaction, and its influence on health and disease and lifespan. From epigenetic perspective, looking now on the longevity, aging, the biological aging, chronic illness, and how they are increased, how they are like increased, or we see an escalation of these phenomena more than ever. What led us today, spending of trillions of dollars in health, and still nobody figured that out, and what causes some like studies of the blue zones. So what makes these people different from others? So they eat what they eat, and it came to their interconnectedness and their interoception, their healthy relationship patterns of extended families, um, collaboration, and how the young treat the older and the older treat the elder, and how this dynamic is drawing upon their longevity and their good genes, not bad genes. So it as the beginning, humans are social beings. So they are not created to be isolated, or to be in their own cocoon. Working from organ system or working in silo is not the case right now. So, opening up the dialogue about what health means, what your reservoir of your electropyochemicals, storage, or like the entity that you are carrying, this like the I call it the quantum computer, and it's it's a mechanism to protect you, whether on good or bad. So whatever the body is doing, it is based on the input. So I'd like to bring you today another phenomena, another part that impact health and disease, and I think everyone is touched by it. It created lots of questions, lots of investigative approaches from researchers, from practitioners, from who are caring about the community, and how they are would like a peaceful, healthy people 2030. How can we make safe neighborhoods, safe environment, how we can eliminate stressors on early childhood, what are the places where they were born, grow, work, learn, play, and worship. How can we make these places a safer and trusted place? As I mentioned before, lots of factors missed up these dynamics. Lots of factors missed up these dynamics. But from the transitional point of view, I am saying we go back to the simple science. To the simple science, what is the foundation? So today I'm bringing the neuroanatomy of aggression, predisposition, genetic predisposition, and the influencing factors such as psychosocial, environmental, and cross culture and culture intelligence. Because now you are going to notice that certain populations, they are promoting culture intelligence, and not social emotional, not only emotional intelligence, culture intelligence, and they are so selective what they do. But however, culture intelligence can be a double-edged sword. It can be used for humanity to grow and prosper, and can use to humanity to diffuse. It is a double-edged sword, and how it is used and how it impact on the gene expression and epigenetics in health and disease. It's another spectrum, and this is how the recommendations now is to look from across culture on the human behavior and understand the complex environments within the context given. So uh, do schools teach that? Do families are aware of that? It's still repetitive of cultural norms, and social norms are repeating themselves, and still the wheel is going on, and the cycles many times for those who are subject vulnerable and those who are lack of awareness and the understanding of exactly what life means, health means, and its impact on health and disease is still a process in progress. I still would like to spread the word across society, so we understand that you are you your structure and function is changing gradually with every input is on, and whatever the cultural factors or how the culture shape communities, it can impact the person on a positive and negative way. In both of all factors I mentioned, look for the beneficiary who benefits. When it comes to the dignity and respect to the human subject, when it comes to the promotion of the human growth as all, with regardless of their sex, gender, race, ethnicity, because I see this a lot in policies. I see it in equal opportunity employment, but it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And what you want to do, you become questioning who you. Especially if it comes with no support in this area, you started to question exactly what are you, if what you are working on is only it is not in anyone interest, or somebody would like it for free without giving its value, or somebody would like it to make use of it and deplete your energy and your mind and heart. And say that the perpetrator is after the mind and the heart, because this is how we differentiated from the animal kingdom, the mind and the heart, and especially the mind. This is a piece of God's uh, greater mind. It's a piece. It's giving everyone a piece based on um, what purpose he created humanity for, or created you. But when you see the human in the eyes of God, not in the eye of the pragmatic or the world view, it's a whole different. Sometimes your kindness is taking for weakness, making fun of, bullying, mobbing. So your kindness is a weapon, or is a disadvantage. It can be weaponized against you. Your smile, I now I'm trying not to smile, but I don't know. I'm trying. But your smile sometimes it is you are going to be seen or perceived as is a good tool for the perpetrator. So most of the perpetrator can be close to you. You never know who is around, and I would like to repeat this one of these videos, the list of the subjective vulnerability and how the perpetrator identify their target or their victims. It is a mind blowing because you no longer live in a world that naivety, gullible, uh, um, easily trust, because like the more the person is easy to trust, the more harm is going to be done. And you don't know who are you trusting, you don't know who you are giving your heart and your mind to, you don't know how this is going to be used and taken advantage of. You don't know. Particularly among females, particular among females who are perceived as nobody, or as perceived as easy target, or perceived as it is okay to take advantage of them because they are nobody. You are not going to be told that, but however, that is the background agenda or motives. You're not going to be seen as vulnerable. They are going to be first infused today, because the perpetrator is going to work on become what you want. So if you want affection, they are going to be it. If you want like status, they are going to be it. So they are going to become whatever you miss, or whatever you think you are in lack of, or whatever you are seeking, or whatever you are reaching out for. They're going to become that. But once they take control, everything will shift. Everything, all promises are broken, all words are bye bye, all the good words are no use, and started to shift you with you are the problem, you are not you are the problem, you are not the person they used to know. So it is shifting perspective. So I mentioned perspective and perception is so critical in healthy relationships, on how to identify the red flags. And that was another video, the red flags and the green flags. The green flags is so easy for healthy relationships. They each of you like the growth of each other, so you would like to grow, and that brings joy and happiness and brings support, infuse more compassion and kindness into the relationship. That is one of the green flags. They are not going to judge you, they are not going to like talk to you in your face in a certain way, and behind you tell everybody how they think you really are. So they are not going to do they are they're not gonna like see your growth and your flourishing as a joy. It's gonna be disrupting, so they have to disrupt it. Another thing I mentioned is are you um, when you fall short, how this is gonna be perceived. Uh, if they have a children, look how their children react to you. That's gonna tell you a lot how they are talking about you. So how they perceive you. If they have friends, look at their friends how they speak to you. And they're gonna tell a lot, because whatever is delivered is perceived. So that will tell a lot. That is part of passive aggressive. Yeah, by the way. So aggression it takes multiple ways. It doesn't take only the physical or the thing that you see it on TV, and that it can be subtle in words, in messaging, in communication. In it can be subtle, untraced, because it's part of, like, it's been taking a light joke, a comment, a surprise, or like a feedback among a large group, and here you are, reminder of something really shouldn't be public, and you trust it, and it is all public, and you are being exposed. That is part of exploitation, and that is part of the aggression. So, what is the story of aggression? Aggression is taking a whole lot of um, interest in the abstract and perspective on what it is, what is the master players in aggression, what conditions are highly correlated with aggression, and one of the resources is the human genes journal, um, I think the European Journal of Human Genetics. There is a lot of studies and discussions about aggression and what can contribute to it, and conditions that associated with. So I'd like to start with that is aggression. As I mentioned, aggression is one of the negative emotions, and everyone is touched by it. Even somehow, maybe you don't know that you anticipated in this subtle usage of aggression, through microaggression, through words, comments, communication, interaction, feedback that it bring harm, it doesn't, or bring shame, guilt, fear into the prospective target or victim. So aggression can take a lot of forms, not only physical. Emotional aggression is the hardest, and there is no law or justice system that will say, oh, there is injustice happen here through emotion, the misuse of emotions, like gaslighting, bullying, or something like that. It takes years, it takes like a whole toll when the body started to fall apart, and the person started to say, this is what I feel I am going through. So, and however, the damage has already done. You see it like in most of like the chronic conditions. It's associated with aggression, and either practice of aggression or exposed to aggression, like in diabetes, in obesity, in cardiovascular, and neurodegeneratives. All of this is impacted by the aggression, and the genetic predisposition, and other cross-culture factors that influence in it. So now I'm gonna do as I promised. This is another layer of a human condition. However, what it changes the DNA methylation, what it changes the state to oxidative stress, what it changes is the state into allostatic, and the manifestation of the conditions. Aggression is one of the factors. So I'd like to understand what the neuroanatomy of aggression. What are systems that are involved in it? So, from the perspective, we have the limbic system, the amygdala, central to emotional reactivity and aggression. Hyperactivity correlates with heightened aggression, disruption of amygdala prefrontal cortex, connectivity, reduced inhibitory control, like we see it in veterans and children. Hippocampus linked to stress-induced aggression in animal models and in human with intermittent explosive disorder. A structure deformation indicates neural loss. Septum and the hypothalamus, the ventral medial hypothalamic or the hypothalamic attack area. Animal studies show septum's GABAergic subcircuits bidirectionally modulates aggression. VL activates induces attack behavior in mice. Similar hypothalamic region in humans referred to as a triangle of Sano, but clinical interventions show limited efficacy for that. Stratium and reward circuits. Strontium caudate, putamen, nucleus accumbens, elevated volumes, and reactivity in these areas correlates with reactive aggression. Animal models describe a winner effect mediated via NACD1 neurons. Prefrontal and cingulate cortices, prefrontal cortex, orbitomedial prefrontal cortex, critical for inhibitory control. Lesions lead to disinhibited or impulsive aggression. Violent psychiatric patients show reduced metabolism in frontal lobes through beta scans. Anterior cingulate cortex or ACC role in emotion regulation, structure changes in ACC and the neighboring prefrontal area are repeatedly linked to antisocial aggressive traits. Volumetric relationships with aggression observed in healthy and conduct disorder populations. Integrated circuitry model aggression resulted in limbic driven or drive exceeds the inhibitory capacity of prefrontal cortex. Serotonin enhances prefrontal cortex inhibition. Deficits in serotonergic, GABAergic, and oxytocin systems or increases in vasopressin facilitate aggression. Neuroimaging evidence support the limbic overactivity coupled with weakened frontal regulation. Genetic predisposition. Okay, monoamine oxidase A or MAOA, a low activity of MAOA, warrior gene variant is associated with impulsive aggression. Particularly in combination with early life stress, limbic hyperactivity, and reduced prefrontal regulation are observed in the carriers. Neuroimaging demonstrated MAOAL carrier exhibit reduced amygdala and cingulate volumes, hyperactive amygdala during emotional processing, and diminished prefrontal cortex function. Dopamine and serotonin pathway genes. Candidate genes implicated include COMT, SLC6A4, or 5T HTTLPR, SLC6A3, or DAT1, DRD2, DRD, all this dopamine and serotonic, DRD4, HTRAAB, HTR2AC, HTR6, TBH1, DBH. Twin and adoption studies affirm that twin studies, that's for like 50 years of longitudinal studies. And adoption studies affirm moderate heritability of aggression, particularly in adulthood and more in males. Gene environment interactions. However, the aggression genes is being passed from the mother. Gene environment interactions, low activity MAOA coupled with childhood trauma, elevated risk for aggressive behavior, illustrated foundational gene environment interplay. That's when epigenetic research comes in place. Genetic risk is moderated by environmental exposure, a dual pathway model, where biological predisposition and rearing context jointly shape outcomes. Influencing factors across the lifespan, developmental maturation, prefrontal cortex or and limbic connectivity matures over adolescence, impairment predisposed to poor impulse control. And as stated, the prefrontal cortex takes till 26 years old with trauma exposure and severe chronic trauma exposure. It can take till 30 years old. So you have a compromised prefrontal cortex till 30 years old. But if there is unhealthy behaviors are in place as well, it makes it the more dysfunctional and abnormalities sometimes in the prefrontal cortex, leading to chronic psychiatric conditions. Environmental exposures, early adversity, abuse, neglect, deprivation compounds the genetic risk. MAOA variants elevate aggression. Hormonal or neurotransmitters balance, that is neuroendocrine pathways, elevated testosterone relative to serotonin or cortisol increases propensity for aggression due to weakened self-regulatory circuitry. So we have the limbic system, the amygdala, hippocampus, septum, and hypothalamus. Their main mechanism is emotion generation and attack initiation. Reward circuits in regions in stratum, NAC, caudate, potamen, reinforcement of aggressive behavior. Prefrontal cortex, orbitomedial prefrontal cortex, and ACC, inhibition of impulsivity and aggression. Genetic predisposition, MAOA, COMT, SLC6A4, DRD24, and others, modulation of neurotransmitters and reactivity. Gene environment dynamic, MOA, and childhood trauma, amplified aggression via limbic prefrontal cortex dysregulation. Developmental and lifespan, we have it based on neural maturation, stress exposure, and it shows its trajectory of regulation versus impulse control. Aggression emerges from a complex interplay of neural circuitry where a heightened limbic or drive and striatal reward signals run unchecked in the context of weak prefrontal inhibition, genetic variants, notably MA, OAL, and polymorphisms in monoaminergic pathways predispose individuals to aggression, especially when interacting with adverse life experiences across the lifespan. Environmental factors and brain maturation shape whether these predispositions manifest, underscoring an integrative biopsychosocial framework. So, the European Society of Human Genetics, that is the edition of 56th edition of the for the European Society of Human Genetics conference. It provides numerous abstract that explores the genetic underpinning of behavioral and neuropsychiatric traits, some of which directly contribute to understanding aggression, like or such as several abstracts within the supplement heightened MOAA, COMT, and SLC6A4 gene variation associated with aggressive or impulsive behaviors, reinforcing the role in neurodevelopmental and behavioral phenotypes, that is the gene environment interaction. Therefore, emphasis on epigenetic regulation, DNA methylation patterns in neurodevelopmental disorders that co-occur with aggression, ADHD, ASD, that is the autism spectrum, and BCOC linked to androgen axis, supporting the gene environment modulation of aggression. BO1-002B specifically discusses the BPARG1 gene methylation in BCO. It's in polycystic ovarious syndrome in women, where insulinemia, hyperinsulin, and hyperandrogenism, both of which are linked to aggression modulation, under investigation. This integration bolsters the report of showing a modern genetic shift from single gene association toward the epigenetic mechanisms. So shifting from single nucleotide or single gene to epigenetic mechanisms into phenotype mapping and systems biology, all of which refine our understanding of aggression risk across developmental stages and in various disease contexts. So now we are within the complex interaction between genotype, phenotype. So within the biosystems, within the endophenotype mapping, within epigenetic mechanisms. So we are now moving from a single entity to a more grandiose or mapping of the concept mapping of the of aggression. Epigenetics refer to the heritable yet reversible changes in gene expression without alteration in DNA sequencing. It serves a biological interface between gene and environment and plays a crucial role in regulating neural plasticity, stress response, and behavioral phenotype like aggression. DNA methylation, CpG island methylation near promoters can silence gene expression. For instance, methylation of BPARG1 gene in granulosa cell has been associated with hyperinsulinemia and hyperandrogenism in BCOC patients, both of which are linked to mood disturbances and aggression. Histone modifications such as acetylation regulates chromatin accessibility and influences gene transcription, influenced in emotional regulation and stress reactivity. Non-coding RNA, and I mentioned that all of these mechanisms in asthma, allergies, and immunity, and others in obesity and oxidative stress. Regulate, so histone modifications such as acetylation regulate chromatin accessibility and influence gene transcription, involved in emotional regulation and stress reactivity. Non-coding RNA, particularly miRNAs, regulate synaptic plasticity and neurotransmitter systems involved in impulsivity and aggression. And the non-coding RNA is one of the targeted intervention in biomeds. Endophenotype mapping. Endophenotypes are heritable, quantifiable components of complex psychiatric conditions that lie closer to genetic variation than clinical symptoms. In aggression and related disorders like autism, ADHD, bipolar disorder, endophenotype mapping offers more precise biological targets for genetic and therapeutic studies. However, the ethical for gene editing and this is still ethical, and we see what is the outcome and if it's gonna compromise other mutations. Neurocognition markers, impairments in exclusive function, impulsivity, and emotion regulation serves as cognitive endophenotype for aggression. Neuroimaging traits, structure differences in the amygdala, orbitofrontal cortex, and anterior cingulate cortex. These are regions for if there is structure differences have been observed in individuals with high trait aggression, suggesting stable, measurable brain-based endophenotype. Neurochemical profiles, altered dopamine and serotonin signaling, low 5-HT levels, DRD4 polymorphisms, reflect this neurochemical endophenotype related to behavioral dysregulation. Endophenotype mapping allows for stratification of psychiatric phenotypes, impulsive versus premeditated aggression, and improves the power of genome-wide association studies, GWAS. System biology integrates data from genomics, transcriptions, proteomics, and metabolomics to model the complexity of biological systems in behavior and disease. Network analysis, we're now not working with only regions, networks, connectors, and dynams. So you are a whole entity, a whole brain, a whole nervous system, a whole biosystems. Nothing is isolated, all connected. Identifies functional modules of interacting genes and proteins, such as those in synaptic signaling, stress response, neuroimmune pathways linked to aggression. Some studies use the systems level genetic mapping in canons to identify loci shared between fear and aggression, offering translational insights for human behavior. Epigenomic and transcriptomics overlays on genome-wide association studies. Data help uncover gene-environment interaction, modulating neurodevelopmental trajectories. For example, ADGRB1 and TSNARE1 gene variant were recently identified as contributors to schizophrenia risk, with downstream impact of behavioral control circuits. System biology has proven specifically effective in transdiagnostic research. We're talking about systems integrations, transdiagnostic, translational, precision, holistic, comprehensive. It is now a broader picture of the human condition, not organ system anymore. Identifying shared molecules pathways across aggression, autism, bipolar, and schizophrenia. Epigenetics into phenotype mapping and the systems biology create a powerful triad for understanding the complex etiology of aggression and other neuropsychiatric phenomena. These frameworks emphasize gene environment interaction, brain behavior relationships, network level biological organization, offering promising pathways for personalized medicine, early detection, and targeted intervention strategies. We are talking about mapping now. So, mapping a condition from transdiagnostic across discipline, multidisciplinary, and it is downstream focused. And what are the master players? And we are unfolding master players over and over. So from each episode or each talk, I'm unfolding one of some or multiple master players in your biological systems. And another thing, biological markers, DNMT3A, AOA, and SLC6A4. DNA methyltransferase 3 alpha is an enzyme that mediates de novo DNA methylation, which silences gene expression. It has been linked to epigenetic programming of behavior and stress response. MAOA, monoamine oxidase A, catalyze the degeneration of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. Its epigenetic suppression by DNMT3A is associated with increased aggression and impulsivity. SLC6A4 encodes the serotonin transporter 5-HTT methylation by DNMT3A, reduces serotonin reuptake regulation, influencing emotional reactivity and risk of mood disorders. The HDAC1 or histone deactylase 1 regulates gene transcription by modifying chromatin structure. COMT catechol O methyltransferase degrades dopamine in the prefrontal cortex. HDAC1 mediates chromatin remodeling, can repress COMT, thereby altering dopaminergic tone and executive function, factors linked to aggression and schizophrenia. MIR and MIR 124, I mentioned it as a biomarker in allergy and asthma as well. So when you have this hyper level of dysregulation and the miscommunication between the cellular communication, inflammation and oxidative stress, understanding why the impulsivity takes place, understanding why the aggression takes place, understand why the environment infuse more of that because of our lack of awareness and understanding what are the master players and anticipated in the human behavior. So I mentioned MIR 124 in the brain enriched microRNA that plays a central role in neural differentiation and synaptic plasticity. That is huge, guys. That is one of the target interventions in biomed. BDNF or brain-derived neurotropic factors, and I mentioned before, walking increase that. Walking, lots of walking. If you are a short person like me, you need to have lots of walking. So if it is recommended like 30 minutes for the taller person, you do 1 hour or you do 2 hours, because for you it's like the muscle tone is gonna take long, takes more efforts. And that's interesting for the metabolic between. That's another point of interest between is the height and weight influence the metabolic ratios and the function and structure as well. Oh, wow. So, it's critical of neural survival, developmental. There is a lot to discover on the cellular and molecular level now. It's the language of the cell, and if we lean into it, you're gonna love it. You're gonna live it, and you're gonna seek nothing but the cellular and molecular language of the biological system, and it's going to bring the big picture of the human condition, chronic illness, psychiatric conditions, and the interrelation or the interplay between health and disease. It's a love language if you tune into it. So it's critical for a neural survival, BDNF development, and mood regulation. MIR124 downregulates BDNF, leading to deficit in neuroplasticity and contributing to depression and behavioral dysregulation. MIR 34A TSNARE1 variant, sorry, is a microRNA that regulates apoptosis, cell death, neurodevelopmental, and the synaptic genes. TSNARE1, you have the epigenetic E1, E2, E3 that is in multiple autoimmune and women health issues. It's under research. Is implicated in synaptic vessels, the fusion and neurotransmission alterations in MIR34A can affect TSNARE1, influencing synaptic function and are associated with schizophrenia. NRC for the DNA methylation and glucocorticoid receptor gene, the C, NAR3C1HTR1B encodes the glucocorticoid receptor gene central to the HPE axis and stress response. HTR1B encodes a serotonin receptor involved in aggression modulation. NR3C1 influences its transcription stress sensitive pathway. Dysregulation here is linked to impulse aggression. So if we understand the downstream pathway, it can be a targeted intervention and modulation for therapeutic intervention. BDNF, DRRD4, apology. BDNF promotes synaptic strength and neurogenesis. DRD1, that is dopamine receptor D4, is involved in novelty seeking, impulsivity. BDNF influences dopaminergic development and receptor sensitivity, thus modulating reward processing and aggression traits. And I remember one of the years I was the dopamine receptors and the dopamine influence in behavior. D4 was associated with infidelity as well. So it is the electrobiochemical, what is taking place and what is impacting on the reward, the pain, pleasure, and the consequences of the impulsivity, the deficit in the PDNF, and how can we understand these mechanisms and what type of interventions can take place, so we are aware what we are modulating is an essential for bringing the homeostasis into the biosystems. BPARG1, NRC31, BPARG1, preexome proliferator, activated receptor gamma, co-activator 1, alpha, regulates energy metabolism and gene transcription in response to stress. And this can impact with the high or the oxidative stresses can impact the mitochondria function and the ability to generate an energy. And you see this fatigue and drainage and depletion of energy and weak muscle tone and things like that. It interacts with NR3C1 to modulate stress-related gene networks. Epigenetic changes in PPAR, ARG1 in BCOC, that is the polycystic ovarian syndrome for women, have been associated with hyperadrenergism and emotional dysregulation. So don't ignore that multiple of times, according to culture, according to the social norms, sometimes when females go through the conflict or the discomfort or anything or the unhealthy relationships, it changed their bias systems on epigenetic formation. So it changes the person over time, and said it take from 5 to 10 years. So it is, and when the condition presents itself, unfortunately, it presents itself with the true manifestation of 90% of its manifestation. So you're not looking at what are preventive procedures from early based on gender, sex, race, ethnicity, and what is our responsibility in that. ADGRB1 adhesion, G protein coupled receptor P1 is involved in neural adhesion and synaptic development. It has a functionality linked to TSNARE1, both associated with schizophrenia risk. Their interplay impacts synaptic function and behavioral outcomes. These are the master players from the biomarkers. Okay, gene interaction and epigenetic regulation. How could this happen? Gene interaction refers to how different genes influence each other's expression and function, often with the context of shared biological pathways and molecular networks. Regulatory interactions, one gene product, a transcript factor or miRNA, controls the expression of another gene. Epistatic interactions, the effect of one gene is dependent on the presence or absence of variant in another. Feedback loop, genes and proteins. Let us see that. Okay, I don't know. Okay, we're good. We're good. So feedback loops, genes and proteins regulates themselves through direct or indirect pathways like BDNF, DRD4 behavior, and the link between the behavior and BDNF. Epigenetic regulations refers to inheritable changes in gene expression that do not involve changes to the DNA sequence. These changes alter how genes are read by the cell. DNA methylation, like DNMT3A, addition of methyl groups to cytosine bases in DNA, typically silencing gene expression. DNMT3A methylates, and MAOA and SLC6A4 gene promoters, altering serotonin metabolism and affecting mood and aggression. Histone modification includes the acetylation, methylation, and phosphorylation. HDAC remove acetyl groups from histone trails, leading to chromatin condensation and reduce the gene expression. miRNA bind to target mRNA to degrade it or inhibit translation. MIR 124 downregulates BDNF. MIR 34A targets TSNAR E1, both linked to synaptic plasticity and psychiatric risk. Epigenetic disruption of BDNF and DRD4 pathway can lead to ADHD, autism, or intellectual disabilities. MAOA and SLC6A4 regulation via DNMT3A methylation influences serotonin tone linked to depression, PTSD, and bipolar disorders. Epigenetic changes in HTR1B, NR3C1, and MAOA modulates behavior control, impulse regulation, and emotional reactivity. TSNA-RE1 and ADGRB1 genetic variants and MIR34A or 34A dysregulation alter synaptic integrity, contributing to psychotic disorders. So gene interaction and epigenetic regulation form a multi-layered control system governing gene expression, brain development, and behavior. Disruptions in these networks, whether through methylation, histone remodulation, or non-coding RNA interface, can predispose individuals to psychiatric and neurodevelopmental and behavioral disorders. Epigenetic mechanisms include DNA methylation, histone modification, and non-coding RNAs modulates gene activity without altering DNA sequences, bridging environmental influences and heritable gene expression patterns. DNA methylation, the addition of methyl group to DNA expresses transcription, playing a pivotal role in synaptic plasticity, learning, memory, and stress-induced behavioral change. DNMT3A, this enzyme executes the novel DNA methylation overexpression in medial prefrontal cortex, can counteract stress-induced memory and synaptic deficits, underscoring its capacity to regulate behavior. MAOA and SLC6A4 genes integral to serotonin metabolism. Methylation status of these genes is altered in individuals exhibiting impulse behaviors or real-life aggression, indicating epigenetic imprinting upon neurotransmitter systems. Histone deacetylation, HDACS, removes histone acetyl group, tightening chromatin and suppressing transcription. This mechanism regulates gene expression broadly across cellular pathways. HDAC1 in psychiatric context, elevated HDAC1 levels are observed in the prefrontal cortex of individuals with schizophrenia, suggesting a role in altering expression of neurotransmission-related genes. MIR124 regulates synaptic plasticity and memory by influencing CREP and BDNF pathways. In animal models of chronic social stress, hippocampal MIR 124 is upregulated, its inhibition improves the depression-like behaviors via BDNF TRKB signaling. Also, in controls neural differentiation by modulating splicing regulators and is involved in stress responsive gene regulation in the hippocampus. MIR34A microRNA regulates diverse pathways, including DNA repair, metabolism, and inflammation, though its direct target is synaptic gene like TSNARE1 require further validation. NR3C1 glucocorticoid receptors activates the HB axis and orchestrates stress response. Apparent methylation in NR3C1s promote the rapacity associated with aggressive behavior in adults, highlighting its role in aggression via stress regulation. HTR1B, although the direct regulatory link remains speculative here, HTR1B serotonin receptor is implicated in impulsivity and aggression, with NR3C1 possibly modulating its signaling in a stress context. BDNF DRD4, while directing studies on this axis are limited in current researches, BDNF role is in dopaminergic neuron developmental suggests a modulatory influence on DRD4 associated behavior traits. ADGRB1, TSNARE1 connections between these genes are emerging within psychiatric genomics, especially schizophrenia risk context, but require more detailed experimental characterizations. Early life and prenatal influences. Prenatal risks including pregnancy and birth complications, inhibitorin toxin exposure, and prenatal maternal stress can disrupt neurodevelopmental and predispose individuals to aggression later in life. These factors often interact with genetic susceptibility to shape behavioral outcomes. Prenatal maternal stress, such as anxiety, leads to hormonal changes impacting fetal HB axis development and is associated with later externalized behavior. Maternal hostile attribution basis, viewing child behavior as hostile, are linked to negative parenting behaviors and elevated child aggression by the age of 5, especially in adversity-laden contexts. Family hostility more than warmth predicts adolescent aggression. Warmth predictive effect is minimal when hostility is present. Rather, warmth reduces aggression indirectly via reducing hostility. Family stress model illustrates how economic pressure can escalate conflict, parent stress, or depressive symptoms, and ultimately adolescent externalizing behaviors. Divine peer affiliation during early adolescence synergetically increase aggression, especially when combined with high family hostility and low worth. Peer contagion or the mutual reinforcement of aggression behavior among peers operates through mechanisms like defiance training, increasing aggression in group settings. Exposure to community violence, crime, and traumatic school environments fosters the development of aggression behaviors, particularly when coupled with neighborhood instability and poverty. Chronic poverty and low socioeconomic status accelerate brain maturation trajectories, and heighten the psychological disorders, including aggression. Individual risk factors: poor impulse control, emotional reactivity, antisocial cognition, and history of maltreatment, elevated aggression risk. Protective factors: strong family cohesion, supportive parents, child relationships, school engagement, intolerance of violence, and involvement in pro social activities buffer against aggression. These factors interact across ecological levels, individual, family, peer, community, to shape trajectories of aggression. Consistent with ecological framework, the accumulation of risk, particularly in early childhood, sets developmental pathways that may lead to persistent aggressive behavior unless mitigated by protective social environment influences. For example, from 0 to 5, prenatal risks, complications during pregnancy and birth, maternal stress, and toxin exposures influence brain development and set early vulnerability to aggression. Parenting quality, maternal hostile attribution toward the child, increased coercive parenting, contributing to early aggressive behavior by age 5. Family hostility during early childhood predicts higher child aggression. Warmth is in this period can indirectly reduce aggression by lowering family hostility. Secure attachment and responsiveness caregiver buffering early aggression risk. Supportive family environment promote emotion regulation development. From age 6 to 12, a family stress model. Economic pressure increases parental distress and conflict, fostering aggressive tendencies in children. Peer influences: children increasingly influenced by peers, deviant peers affiliation can promote aggression. Community exposure to neighborhood violence begins to impact the behavior during middle childhood. Positive school engagement and pro-social peer networks can reduce aggression. Parenting warmth and consistent discipline remain important buffers. Age from 13 to 18, a peer group and reinforcement of aggression norms escalate adolescence aggression. High family hostility combined with deviant peer groups amplifies aggressive behaviors. Low socioeconomic status and community violence, heightened psychosocial stress, accelerating brain maturation, linked to externalizing behaviors. Heightened emotional reactivity and immature impulse control increase aggression risk. Protective factors: involvement in structured extracurricular activities, strong parental monitoring and supportive relationships, school and community programs addressing violence and emotional skills. From 18 plus, early life adversity and cumulative risk factors can manifest in persistent antisocial and aggressive behaviors. Social stressors such as unemployment, social isolation, and substance use can trigger or exacerbate aggression. Protective factors: stable social support networks, access to mental health and substance use treatment, societal interventions reducing poverty and community violence. Across developmental early life factors creates a foundation for aggression risk, which is modulated by family, peer, community environments, and the influence of peer groups becomes increasingly salient in adolescence, while adult aggression is often a culmination of lifelong risk predictive factors. Intervention must be tailored to developmental stages to optimize prevention and rehabilitation. The ecological models provide a comprehensive framework for understanding human behavior, including aggression, by emphasizing the multiple interacting layers of influencing ranging from individual to societal factors. These models posit that behavior results from dynamic interactions across various environment systems, highlighting the complexity of aggression development and manifestation. The Brenner's ecological systems theory, 1979, introduced the nested system approach to human development, encompassing microsystem, immediate environment such as family, peer, school. Mesosystem, it is like the cell is here. Interconnections between microsystems, family, school, and relationships. Exosystems, external social settings, indirectly affecting the individual, parental, and workplace. A macrosystem, broader cultural and social norms influencing all other systems. Chronosystems, the dimension of time, including life transitions and historical events. In aggression research, this model emphasizes how factors at each level interact to shape aggressive behavior. On the microsystem, family environment, parenting style, family conflict, early childhood experiences are strong predictors of aggressive tendencies. Peer groups, peer influence is critical in adolescence, often reinforcing aggressive behaviors through social learning. So, this is modeling, social learning, and imitation. School climate and teacher student relationships can either exacerbate or mitigate aggression. Mesosystem interaction between family, peer context can compound risk and promote resilience. For example, positive parental monitoring combined with supportive peer networks reduce aggression. Exosystem, parental network, parental work stress, neighborhood safety, and media exposure indirectly in influencing the child's behavior by shaping the immediate environment. For example, like the cyberbullying aggression or the cyberbullying aggression through text. Macro systems, societal norms, and culture attitudes toward violence and aggression significantly influence individual behaviors. Some cultures, socioculture's norms, they think that aggression is a manifestation of strength. So, and that allow others to adapt. This is social modeling. Economic inequity, social policies, and community resources are part of this broader context affecting aggression prevalence. Chronosystem, timing of life events, parental divorce, trauma, and historical changes, societal violence levels impacting aggression trajectories across the lifespan. Ecological models complement biological perspective by situating genetic predispositions and neurobiological vulnerabilities within environmental context. For example, a child with genetic susceptibility to aggression, MAOA variants, may or may not develop aggression behaviors depending on environmental exposure, such as maltreatment or peer influence. Multi-level interventions targeting family dynamics, peer group influence, school climate, and community resources are essential. Prevention programs incorporating ecological understanding how have shown efficacy by addressing risk factors at multiple system levels simultaneously. Ecological model provide a robust framework for understanding the multifaceted etiology of aggression, emphasizing the interplay between individual biology and the layered environmental system over time. This approach supports holistic prevention and treatment strategies that consider the complexity of human development. And this is when culture intelligence uh, is a necessity. Cross-culture influences on behavior and gene expression in aggression. Aggression is a complex behavior shaped by interplay between genetic predispositions and environmental context, including culture factors. Cross-culture differences significantly impact both the expression of aggressive behavior and the epigenetic regulation of genes implicated in aggression, highlighting the necessity to consider culture when studying gene environment interaction. And that is what I'm standing for, culture intelligence. So what is this? Yeah, we're gonna go through that. Cultures vary in their acceptance and expression of aggression. For example, collectivist societies often emphasize societal harmony, discouraging overt aggression, whereas some individualistic cultures may tolerate or even valorize assertive behaviors. These social norms shape behavior by influencing the context in which genetic predisposition manifests. Exposure to culturally specific stressors, discrimination, poverty, conflict can modulate aggression through stress pathways, impacting gene expression via epigenetic modification. The variability of these stressors across cultures contributes to differentiational activation of neurobiological systems underlying aggression. Genes such as MAOA, known for their role in aggression, demonstrates differentiational expression. We call about risk factors, the risk factors, protective factors, and differentiation factors. Influenced by culture, environment, and social context. Low activity in MAOA variant have been associated with increased aggression, primarily in context of a childhood maltreatment, which prevalence and reporting may differ culturally. DNA methylation and histone modification of aggression related gene SLC6A4 NR3C1 can be altered by culturally mediated environmental exposure, such as diet, stress, social interactions. Cross-cultural studies have shown that early life stress differently impacts epigenetic markers linked to aggression, potentially due to varying culture, caregiving practices, and social support systems. Neuroimaging studies suggest that cultural backgrounds influence brain activation patterns in regions associated with aggression regulation, such as amygdala, prefrontal cortex, possibly through gene environment interaction. These neural differences may reflect a culturally shaped cognitive and emotional response to aggressive stimuli. Understanding cross-cultural differences in gene expression and behavior can improve the culture sensitivity of aggression assessment tools and interventions. Personalized approaches accounting for culture context and genetic background are necessary for effective management of aggression related disorder globally. Aggression is a behavior deeply embedded in culture contexts, and this is differentiational, that modulates genetic predisposition and genetic regulation. Cross-cultural research elucidated the dynamic interaction between gene, environment, advancing our understanding of aggression, biological, and social determinants. Culture defines the social norms, values, and accepted behaviors. which influence how aggression is perceived and expressed. Culture factors include parenting styles, community violence, social support, and stress exposure. These environmental inputs vary widely between culture and affect biological systems. Gene expression involved in aggression related pathways, MAOA, SLC6A4, NR3C1, is sensitive to environmental stimuli. Epigenetic mechanisms such as DNA methylation and histone modifications regulate whether these genes are upregulated or silenced. Culture environments can alter epigenetic marks through factors like chronic stress, nutrition, and social interactions. Epigenetic modifications serve as a biological interface between culture and gene expression. For example, adverse early childhood experiences common in certain sociocultural settings can increase methylation of stress-related genes, increasing aggression risk. Conversely, positive cultural practices may promote resilience by modulating gene expression beneficially. Genetic predisposition interact with culturally shaped environments to influence aggressive behaviors. For example, individuals with low activity MAOA genotype may only display increased aggression when exposed to harsh environments, typically of some cultural settings. Culture context determines how these gene environment interaction manifest phenotypically. Aggressive behaviors influenced by gene expression can in turn affect culture norms. Higher societal violence may reinforce aggressive norms. This dynamic creates a feedback loop where culture and biology co-evolve. Socioeconomic factors like income and wealth, economic status affect access to resources, healthcare, education, and safe environments. Poverty can increase stress, frustration, and risk exposure to violence, which can elevate aggressive behaviors. Wealthier individuals might have protective buffers against stressors linked to aggression. Education attainment shapes cognitive and emotional skills, influencing conflict resolution and impulse control. Lower education often correlates with higher aggression due to fewer coping strategies. Job insecurities, unemployment, or a stressful work environment contributes to psychosocial stress and may increase aggression risk. Conversely, fulfilling employment can foster emotional regulation and reduce aggression. Living in high crime or densely populated neighborhoods can normalize aggression or provoke defensive behaviors. Community cohesion or isolation impact social support and aggression regulation. Culture differs in the acceptability of aggression. For example, some culture tolerates physical confrontations more than others. Other cultures may see aggression as a legitimate response to insult or threat. Child rearing norms influence aggression development. Strict or neglectful parenting can increase aggressive tendencies. Culture beliefs about discipline, corporal punishment versus reasoning, shape behaviors. Direct communications versus indirect in culture affects conflict expression. Some cultures avoid confrontation, reducing overt aggression. Language and gestures also influence perceived aggression levels. Certain rites of passage or festivals may include aggressive displays, normalizing such a behavior temporarily or symbolically. Culture, storytelling, and media shape attitudes toward aggression and violence. Religion may prescribe pacifism or justifying violence under certain circumstances, affecting aggression norms. Moral teachings influence self-control and social behaviors. In every social interaction, the socioeconomic pressure, financial stress combined with cultural expectations, masculinity norms to influence aggression expression. For example, in economically disadvantaged communities with strong honor codes, aggression may be more frequent and socially sanctioned. Workplaces, schools, and social gathering reflect these combined influences through behavioral patterns and conflict resolutions styles. Aggression is a complex behavior influenced by interplay of genetic predispositions, environmental factors, including socioeconomic status and cultural context. Understanding this interaction is critical to elucidating individual vulnerability in aggressive behaviors across population and lifespan. Genetic variant in genes such as MAOA, SLC6A4, and the NR3C1 have been implicated in aggression related phenotypes. However, expression of these genes is modulated by environment exposures, stress, trauma, social conditions through epigenetic mechanisms like DNA methylation and histone modification. Individuals with low activity in MAOA allele may only exhibit heightened aggression when exposed to adverse environments such as childhood maltreatment or socioeconomic deprivation. Socioeconomic factors, poverty, education, neighborhood safety create stressors that influence neuroendocrine systems, particularly the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, regulated by NR3C1 glucocorticoid receptor gene, thereby affecting stress response and aggression prosperity. Culture norms around aggression, conflict resolution, and social hierarchies shape behavioral expression and social acceptability of aggression acts. For example, cultures with norms that condone retaliation may potentiate aggressive responses in genetically predisposed individuals. These environmental and cultural factors induce epigenetic changes, altering gene expression linked to aggressive behaviors, demonstrating bidirectional influence between gene and social context. Epigenetic regulation, such as DNA methylation of DNMT3A targeting genes like MAOA and SLC6A4, mediates environmental effects on gene expression relevant to aggression. Histone deacetylases, for example, HDAC1 modifying chromatin accessibility influencing expression of neurotransmitter metabolism, like gene metabolism gene such as COMT, affecting impulse control and aggression. Non-coding RNAs, miRNAs such as MIR124 and MIR34A regulates neuroplasticity gene like BDNF and synaptic function genes TSNARE1, linking molecular regulation to behavioral phenotypes. Early life socioeconomic adversity and cultural exposure shape epigenetic marks during critical periods of brain development with lasting impacts on aggression risk. In adulthood, persistent environmental stress or culture pressures continues to influence gene expression in aggressive behaviors, illustrating lifelong plasticity in gene environment interplay. Aggression emerges from a dynamic interaction between genetic predispositions and environmental contexts defined by socioeconomic status and culture. Epigenetic mechanisms serve as a molecular bridge, translating these complex influences into behavioral outcomes. Integrative research combining gene environment studies with culture and socioeconomic analysis offers promising pathway for personalized interventions and social policy aimed at reducing aggression and its consequences. Aggression influenced by gene environment interactions have broad health implications, spanning mental health disorders, neurological conditions, and social dysfunction. These outcomes depend on the balance between genetic vulnerability, environmental exposure, and individual resilience. Mental health disorders, genetic variants related to aggression, MAOA, SLC6A4, BDNF, are also implicated in disorders like conduct disorder, antisocial personality disorder, depression, and autism spectrum disorders, with epigenetic modification modulating symptoms severity. Neurological disorders, dysregulation of neurotransmitter system influenced by gene environment factors can exacerbate aggression in epilepsy, Alzheimer's disease, and schizophrenia. Physical health, chronic stress from adverse environment interacts with genetic predispositions impacting HBA axis regulation, NRC, NR3C1, glucocorticoid receptors gene, and leading to cardiovascular and metabolic disease alongside aggressive behaviors. Epigenetic changes may not only increase aggression, but also impairs executive function, emotional regulation, and social cognition, thereby perpetuating cycles of violence and poor health outcomes. These effects vary across lifespan, with early life adversity imprinting lasting epigenetic marks and heightened disease risk and maladaptive behaviors. Pharmacological approaches aiming to modulate neurotransmitters systems and epigenetic regulators, HDAC inhibitors or agent targeting the serotogenic system show promise in reducing aggression, especially when personalized by genetic profiling. So we have to understand the genetic predisposition, the epigenetic variants, and the context is given. It is interesting, the behavior mapping within the context. So I have labs now, and especially with experimental neuroscience and transitional neuroscience, are mapping behavior within the context from sleep, from given scenarios like the storytelling or the role play, and mapping the neural responses using fMR, functional magnetic resonance imaging, and other advanced neuroimaging techniques. It's so interesting now. The world is moving from just the neuroscience or the neurophysiology or the diagnostic of the disease into understanding the behavior behind the disease and what interventions when presenting with a specific context. Nutrition, and it's real time labs now in measuring this in real time interaction or responses, and documenting it and sharing it with this like-minded. Gene environment informed therapies can optimize treatment efficacy by considering individual genetic risk and environmental history. However, the intervention would like to be in the critical period, then a critical neurodevelopmental period. This is when you have the most stem cells, neurogenesis. You have the potentials. You have the capacity to reverse. Early childhood Early childhood support targeting socioeconomic adversities, trauma, and family dynamics can buffer genetic vulnerabilities and promote healthy behavioral outcomes. Cognitive behavioral therapy and anger management programs tailored to neurobiological profile improve self-regulation and reduce aggression. Promoting culture competencies, especially among practitioners. This is highly one of the competencies in any practice, culture competencies for the population you serve. In mental health services ensures interventions respect and incorporate cultural norms around aggression and conflict, because we have to understand aggression within its cross-culture context. The why and the how and when. Community resilience building programs focusing on education, social support, and not only saying social support, positive, responsible social support, and it is collective. It's collective more than individualistic. Poverty reduction, create protective environment, and mitigate gene environment risks. Interventions must be age sensitive. As I'm saying, we have to intervene. We have to understand in these critical areas. 0 to 5. Instead of saying it once again over and over. 0 to 5, from 6 to 12, from 13 to 18, or from 9 to, because other things may present itself due to the context or the change in the environment. From 13 to 16, from 16 to 19, and so on. And you can create the stability because you are going to build the true reception and understanding. The person will be in this journey growing. That's why we say post-traumatic growth. We say the developmental. It is not shrinking. It's not fading. It is developmental. We have to understand the value of these words. Interventions must be age sensitive, addressing critical development windows where environmental modifications can reshape epigenetic trajectories. When I understand the intervention from epigenetic genotype phenotype interactions, that will transform how we can collaborate from multidisciplinary. Personalized prevention integrating genetic screening, epigenetic biomarkers, and we have multiple profiles. I mentioned in multiple videos, multiple profiles. So it's rewriting the life of the person, giving them hope, giving them strength to proceed. And the environmental assessment offering a proactive framework to identify at-risk individuals and implement tailored strategies. Aggression's impact on health and disease reflects a complex interplay between genes, environment, and culture. Effective intervention require a holistic approach that fosters resilience, enhances awareness of individual and contextual risk factors, and leverage advances in genetics, epigenetics to guide personalized care. Multi-level strategies encompasses biological, psychological, and social domains hold the greatest promise for the mitigation of aggressive behavior and improving health outcomes across diverse populations. For example, some of the programs and policies like already implementing this approach, is multi-systemic therapy, is an intensive family and community based. I introduced it there in one of the videos. A community based intervention designed to reduce antisocial aggressive behaviors in youth by addressing risk factors across family, peer, school, and neighborhood systems. The research shows it reduces youth aggression, improves the family function, and decreases recidivism rates in juvenile offenders. The therapy incorporates understanding of genetic predisposition by targeting environmental triggers. By altering environmental stressors and improving relational dynamics, multisystemic therapy buffers gene environment interaction, risks contributing to aggression. Another program is the Nurse Family Partnership. Nurse Family Partnership is a prenatal and early childhood home visitation program by registered nurse aimed at low-income, first-time mothers to promote healthy parenting and child development. Longitudinal studies indicate a reduction in child aggression and behavioral problems, improved prenatal competencies, and fewer childhood maltreatment reports. Early intervention during critical development windows mitigates adverse epigenetic changes linked to stress and aggression vulnerability. We have community-based violence prevention programs. Initiatives like Cure Violence and Ceasefire use public health models to interrupt violence through community outreach, conflict mediation, and changing social norms. These programs have reduced violent crimes and aggressive behaviors in high-risk communities, improving social cohesion, altering the social environment, reduces triggers for aggression, and fosters a protective culture and community norms. So, overall, addressing environmental risk factors and psychosocial stressors, promoting skills and emotional regulation, considering developmental timing to optimize impact, incorporating culture and community context, aligning with emerging genetic and epigenetic insights to tailor strategies. So it is an integrative, a comprehensive approach in understanding health and disease and adapting the right intervention or adopting strategies. Highly sensitive or vulnerable, of course, children and adolescents. So the recommendation is specific programs or targeting children and adolescents. The good behavior game is a classroom based behavior management strategy shown to reduce aggressive behavior and improve self-regulation among elementary school children. The good behavior game uses term-based reinforcement to encourage pro-social behavior, and longer-term studies show its effectiveness in reducing later substance use, aggression, and mental health problems. Multisystemic therapy, as I mentioned it before, an intensive family and community-based intervention targeting juvenile involved in the justice system addresses individual, family, peer, and school factors, resulting in reduced violent behavior and recidivism. For at-risk communities, cure violence model, a community-based public health approach that treats violence as a contagious disease, trained violence interrupters, mediates conflicts, and engage high-risk individuals, significantly reduce the shooting and violent crime in several urban areas. The Cure Violence model is an innovative community based public health intervention that conceptualizes violence as a contagious disease that spreads through social networks. This framework shifts the approach from traditional criminal justice methods to prevention by interrupting the transmission of violent behaviors and changing community norms. The main component of these programs is violence interruption. Trained community members, also called the violence interrupters, actively identify and mediate the conflict before they escalate into violence. These interrupters have credibility within the community, often coming from familiar backgrounds or social networks as those at risk of perpetrating violence. Behavior change communication, the model engage influential individuals to promote behavior change by shifting social norms and support or tolerate violence. Outreach workers educate community members, especially high risk individuals, about nonviolence conflict resolution and alternatives to aggressive behaviors. Community mobilization, and this was a huge part of my undergrad health science degree. So I was going to psychiatric or public health, but I wanted to a different route in psychology and health psychology and behavioral neuroscience. But community mobilization, that is like I did the mapping for community mobilization and evaluation and planning for the programs. So it was a very interesting 2 semesters experience. Community mobilization, the program collaborates with local institutions, including law enforcement, health services, and social organizations, fostering a multi-sector approach to violence reduction and community empowerment. Evidence of effectiveness, multiple evaluations of cure violence model have demonstrated significant reduction in violent crime rates. For example, in Chicago, the program led to 41% reduction in violence crimes in neighborhoods where it was implemented compared to control areas. A similar success has been reported in Baltimore, New York, where community violence interrupters help decrease violence by mediating high-risk conflicts and connecting individuals to social services. Theoretical basis, the cure violence model is grounded in epidemiological theory, applying principles of infectious diseases control to violence prevention. And epidemiological, I had this another 1 semester, and understanding the science from theory and practice is completely different. When you hear the word about when it is implemented through community and societal perspective, it gives you a complete different shift how human ecological system work and how it manifests in health and disease. It gives you a complete different trajectory of understanding. By identifying transmitters, individuals who may provoke or escalate violence, and using interrupters to stop the spread, so reduce the curve or flatten the curve, the model addresses violence proactivity rather than reactivity. Broader implications, the model emphasizes the importance of culture competence, and this is highly recommended for each practice, culture competency. Community-driven interventions that recognize the socioeconomic, the socio-environmental context of violence. It also underscores the need for sustained funding, political support, and community buy-in to maintain long-term success. For example, cure violence model reduction in the cure violence model has been associated with a substantial reduction in violence violence crimes, violent assaults in several urban areas. For example, in Chicago. Um, by engaging trusted community members as violence interrupters, the program fosters improved relationships between residents and service providers, including the public service providers. Uh, Linkage to social services, sorry, beyond the conflict mediation. The program connects risk of individuals to education, employment, and mental health resources, contributing to improve the social determinants of health that reduce aggression long term. It challenges sustainability and funding. Sustained funding is a persistent challenge. Many programs depend on grants or limited municipal support, which can lead to program interruptions or scaling back of services. Community buy-in, another challenge. Initial mistrust or resistance within communities can hamper program implementation. Violence interrupters must earn credibility, which take time, especially in communities with high level of trauma and systemic distrust. While reduction in violent crime are measurable, isolating the effect of the cure violence from other interventions or broader social trends remains complex. Longitudinal data and rigorous evaluation designs are needed to robust evidence. Working in high risk environments with this safety risks to interrupters themselves, necessitating ongoing training and support to mitigate harm. Adaptations, integration with other justice system entities. Some cities have adapted the model to include a stronger partnership with justice system entities to enhance data sharing and coordinated responses, though this requires balancing community trust. The model has been adapted to address domestic violence, young gang conflicts, and school-based bullying by tailoring intervention strategies to specific contexts. Recent adaptations incorporate data analytics and real-time violence tracking systems to identify hotspots and deploy interrupters more effectively. Culture tailoring programs increasingly emphasize culture sensitive approaches, employing interrupters who reflect the ethnic and social makeup of the community, enhancing program acceptance and effectiveness. I mentioned it was implemented in Chicago, Illinois, Baltimore, Maryland, and New York City, New York. And these are witnessing high violent and aggression prevalence. Workplace violence prevention programs, multi-components initiatives, including employee training, organization policy reforms, and conflict resolution workshops, have been effective in reducing workplace aggression. Resilience training programs, mindfulness, stress management, and emotional intelligence training improve coping skills and reduce aggressive responses in high stress work environments. Promoting culture intelligence. Thank you. Aggression. Resiliency. Here we come to cultural intelligence and its correlation with aggression and resiliency. Culture intelligence or CQ refers to an one second. I am trying to find it here. Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So culture intelligence or CQ. So we have emotional intelligence EQ, and your intelligent quotient is IQ. That's your math and science, and the high what is perceived earlier by the world. Uh, uh, we have the CQ, or the culture intelligence, refers to an individual's capability to function effectively across various cultural contexts. So that means culture intelligence, diversity, complex environments. Culture intelligence is increasingly recognized as a crucial factor in mediating behavioral responses and fostering adaptive coping strategies across diverse populations. Enhancing culture intelligence can reduce misunderstanding, mitigate misunderstanding. Here where we comes labeling, and I mentioned we master the labeling. What we didn't master is understanding, but we master the misunderstanding, judgment, and labeling. So, cultural intelligence is bringing this piece into, like, we have to face it so we can acknowledge it and we deal with it so we can move forward, not be stagnant or fading. So reduce misunderstanding, mitigate cultural influence, aggression, and strengthen resilience at individual, community, and organizational levels. What is your operating system? Perceived reality, perceived stress, perceived threat, based on the heuristic or the whatever experiences, past experiences you have been accumulating, intergenerational. Culture misunderstanding and bias and discrimination and racial biases is been in the research proved its correlation between health and disease and its direct correlation in women health. Culture misunderstanding and bias are often underlying contributors to aggressive behaviors, especially in multicultural environments. Individuals with higher culture intelligence are better equipped to interpret social cues accurately, navigating culture differences, and manage conflict non aggressively. For example, in workplace and schools, culture intelligence training has been shown to decrease intercultural tension that might otherwise escalate into aggression. Moreover, aggression can be expressed differently across culture due to varying norms about emotional expression and conflict resolution. Enables individuals to appreciate these differences, reducing the likelihood of aggressive responses based on misinterpretation or ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism, this is in psychology, long out there. So sometimes there is a cultural dominance. Culture dominance when a specific group, that is what how everyone has, and anybody perform out of this, they are excommunicated or they are misjudged or they are being punished or misfit or mismatched, and this detriment the all other aspects of human life. It is not just like ethnicity. So culture intelligence and resiliency. Resilience is the ability to recover from adversity and stress, a quality deeply influenced by cultural frameworks that shape values, social support, and coping mechanisms. Culture intelligence fosters resilience by helping individuals and communities to recognize and utilize culturally relevant resources and support systems, adapt to coping strategies to align with values, maintain positive intercultural relationships that serve as buffers against stress. In multicultural societies, resilience is enhanced when culturally intelligent be individuals and systems validate diverse identities and experiences, enabling more effective stress management and mental health outcomes. Implementing culture intelligence training in schools, workplace, and community centers fosters awareness and skills for cross culture interactions, such as programs reduce stereotypes, improve empathy, and teach non aggressive conflict resolution. Creating spaces for intercultural dialogue, open dialogue. Wow, what doesn't find itself in words, find itself in organs. Encourages understanding and collective problem solving, which can prevent aggression and promote communal resilience. And mentioned before, are you operating from subjective or objective? Are you operating from focusing on the person and what you like, I don't like about them? Or are you operating from objective, the what is in hand, the problem, and what needs to be done, regardless age, race, gender, ethnicity, race? Am I here focusing on the mission, or am I here to separate and divide? Integration culture knowledge into therapy and resilience building programs improves effectiveness, especially in population vulnerable to aggression due to marginalization. As I mentioned, 20% of the population are subjected vulnerable, 60% of female are vulnerable, and the aggression toward the female is taking multiple phases, and it can be subtle, and it is in the cardiovascular research, the one of the papers is the octopus heart, that is based on discrimination, biases, and aggression, and all the negative load, the cytotoxicity load, and the unhealthy and the sense of excommunication. So all this impacted how the heart gradually is shaped like the octopus shape. The heart to octopus syndrome. I'm gonna send a link to that. This research paper, how women's heart is shaped like the octopus in cardiovascular diseases, and its impact on human life. Let's see. Yes. Organizations that promote inclusive practices and respect for cultural differences create environments less prone to aggression and more supportive psychological resilience. Promoting cultural intelligence is a powerful approach to mitigating aggression and enhancing resilience across diverse populations. By cultivating cultural intelligence through education, community engagement, culture sensitive interventions, societies can foster more harmonious, adaptable, and resilient individuals and communities. And it still is not fully 100%. It is still, there's exclusion, there is differentiation. Still, it goes back to subjective objective operation. Unfortunately, yeah, we're not in utopia. We're dealing with the human nature. It is understanding the awareness and how you process it, and the emotional maturity is part of it as well. For example, here, interculture competence training in schools. Schools increasingly implement interculture competences training to reduce bullying, discrimination, and aggression among students from diverse backgrounds. Programs like Roots of Empathy cultivate empathy and culture understanding by bringing infants and parents into classrooms to teach perspective taking. And when I say perspective taking, and I say, are you operating from the heuristic, the what is relevant, familiar, ready to judge? Or are you taking it time? Are you observant, not observant? Perspective taking and emotional regulation, which lowers aggressive behaviors and promotes resilience among youth. Reduce the incidence of school violence, increase the social emotional skills, and improve the peer relationships. Workplace diversity and culture intelligence programs, organizations such as Google and IBM. These people like needs. I want you 100% focusing on your creativity and innovation. So I have to take care for the other. So they are very um, caring about the psychological and physiological health of their workers. Even the solitogenic design of their environment promote health, promote calmness, promote creativity, promote production, innovation. And everyone is provided the environment to give 100% of their creativity. Google and IBM have implemented culture intelligence and diversity training programs because they are developing products. This targeting diverse, complex whole world, so they have to understand their language. They need the time, they need the effort, they need the language, you need the context. This all time and consumption of the human biosystems. So how come I consume you and I'm not giving you the tools that will allow you to function well? So I'm not only taking, I'm give and take. It's a reciprocity relationship. So Google and IBM have implemented culture intelligence and diversity training programs that addresses implicit biases and promote inclusive communication strategies. These programs reduce workplace conflicts and aggressive interactions by fostering culture awareness and respect, contributing to resilient organizational cultures. Enhanced teamwork, that is the outcome, reduced intercultural conflict, and improved organizational resilience. Community-based culture mediation programs. And I love to learn more about that in real context. How to be a community mediator, how to be like the peacemaker, the pacemaker, the negotiator. These are like it takes away far from subjective to objective. So it is a transformation of perspective taking. I took it in Arizona Trauma Institute in dealing with a traumatized brain, Dr. Robert. And I owe a lot to his adoption for us. And we are not only students for them, we are not only taking one course, it is a continuous relationship. And that would present the mentor, the teacher, the giver, and and they want you grow, they want you understand, they want you heal, they want you to see the best. And whenever you reach out with a question or something confusing, you see a detailed response. It is not one class, it is a long time relationship. That's why we say it takes only one responsible adult to shape or reshape what has been raptured. So good people exist, wonderful people exist. I don't forget Dr. Gentry as well and his stretching hand for help and loving kindness. Um, so, guys, I don't deny any of those who they don't know me personally, but they understand the journey. They understand the journey, and they reach out with plenty overflow of giving and allowing you to learn from this river of endless giving. It's a river of knowledge, a river of compassion, empathy. Uh, Whatever I read later on in books and I learned it in my classes in health science, the human element has to be in place. The human element has to be in place. You are not an object, um, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. So thank you so much, Dr. Robert and Dr. Gentry. I owe a lot to you. Uh, Programs like Kyoto Violence Model incorporate cultural mediators or violence interpreters drawn from within communities. These mediators use cultural knowledge and relationships to de escalate conflicts, reduce aggression, and build resilience by connecting individuals with resources that promote social support and healing. The outcome of the program, significant reduction in violent crimes in urban neighborhoods. Culturally tailored mental health interventions, programs that adapt resilience building and aggression management therapies to specific culture context, and narrative exposure therapy. And narrative is completely different from storytelling. Yeah, a narrative. What narrative are you operating from? Is it the victim or the victor, the perpetrator or the mediator? What narrative? To refugees, integrate culture, beliefs, and practices to enhance acceptance effectiveness. This approach improves emotional regulation and decreases aggression by addressing trauma within culture frames. The outcome improved mental health, reduced aggression, out process, and strengthened resilience among trauma affected population. Culture and intelligence development trainings for justice system, reduce culturally insensitive policing and aggressive encounters with minority communities. For example, the Culture Awareness Training Program, CATP in the UK, educates officers on culture norms, communication styles, and bias reduction, promoting community trust, and lowering aggressive confrontations. The outcome enhanced community relations, fewer aggressive incidents, and increased the community resilience. Culture intelligence programs have been effectively applied in diverse settings: schools, workplace, communities, mental health, justice systems, demonstrating significant benefits in reducing aggression and fostering resilience. These interventions work by enhancing culture understanding, empathy, communication, and culturally appropriate support system. One more point. Uh, So to understand the cultural influences, we have culture identity maps. We have to understand these maps. What influence the culture? For the subculture, from culture and subculture, you don't have one culture within one community. You have cultures. That is the dominance specific. That is the outlines by the community, and you have subcultures. So you have to understand their perspective of conflict and emotions, how they express that within a context. So you have to understand that is what we call it the culture identity. Culture identity maps, background, how the backgrounds of the culture and subcultures affect perception of aggression. So, perceptual, perceptual. This is here. It's really cool if you understand. If you're gonna see the mapping of a phenomena, you're gonna love the language of it. You're gonna love the language. For example, what does it mean by walk in their shoes? Through culturally relevant conflict scenarios. Walk in their shoes. What are cultural differences are expressing themselves and presenting the meaning of anger, aggression, for the negative emotions. What are cultural differences are presenting through the expression of negative emotions? Normally, negative emotions, not everyone is experiences it. It is sex, gender, race, ethnicity, culture, as an attitude, the beliefs, attributions, other geopolitical factors. It determine how they are expressed. So you have to give it time. How they are dealing or communicating with conflict resolution. What conflict resolution means for them, or does it have an opportunity for it? What this culturally sensitive communication means, and how they manage it in aggression. Culture sensitive communication, how it is managed in aggression. So things you have to notice, you have to observe, and not only observe and notice and understand and give it time. How can you identify the high risk in how to empower them and how to connect with the community resources? How to do that? This are totally, it needs a whole system. Who are your community interrupters? These are who are preventing the escalation of the event. What are their experiences, their strategies? What is the mapping of their of mapping of identity high risk areas and community support in their neighborhoods? How they mediate conflicts peacefully within the culture context, within the context is given. How they plan their action, how they help when they witness aggressive events, how they collaborate of their communication and understanding the challenges and the strengths within the community. It all has it, how the generational and intergenerational cultural support and resiliency in conflicts resolution. Their adaptive strategies, their culture cues, verbal cues, non-verbal culture cues. So that's with body language, facial expression, tone of voice, and things like that. What is the severity of the aggression on the community and its impact on health among the group that you are trying to understand? How can what how can or what are their mechanisms of implementing empathy and the self-regulation abilities in emotional regulation? What are programs provided? What are the stereotypes in place? What their culture awareness, motivation, behavior change? All these are perspectives has to be taken. Uh, their communication, their verbal and non-verbal communication styles, their gestures, their interactions with one another, there are interaction with their in-group and out-group. How can you understand all of that? Their activity and emotional regulations. All this, their thoughts, their behavior on aggression and resilience. What these words stand up for them. So sometimes it's not like one size fits all. So we understand now there is uh, um, a complex environment behavior mapping. And we have to understand that in correlation with genetic, epigenetics, and gene expression, and the phenotype genotype interaction, and its manifestation of health and disease, and its correlation with physiological disorder, neurological disorders, and the quality of life and the lifespan. So today I participated in the neuroanatomy of aggression and genetic predisposition, and some of the influencers, the master players that may guide us to form an understanding about the phenomena, aggression, and what a positive behavior changes needs to take place, and how it can how it is most needed from family and community perspective. Is not anymore individualistic. Once they reach the stabilization, they are able to reach the state of emotional maturity of understanding and what needs to be done. This is when they can collaborate, and there is a ripple effect of positive effects and a change in the change in their trajectories, in their neurofunction structure, and their biosystems. We want to bring hope. We want to bring hope in home, in school, in community, in workplace, in social media. We want to reduce stress, peer conflict, culture differences, family issues, substance use, and other things that we would like to uh, to see a better life, to see a better life. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God made you for something, and this something is good, and you have to believe, and you will receive. And uh, in here today, I'm done with my talk. I hope you get something out of it, and I'm gonna send some links with this perspective, just to read through it, You may learn something, you may open your mind to understand something that it's going to benefit your life on daily basis, or may benefit somebody you want to communicate with them. I am grateful for every single moment that I have the opportunity to record this, and I hope one day somebody will benefit from it and do something good in their life. And you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and I wish you well. Peace.